Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our two guests, Brendan Albetski and John Sollitto. We're here to break down Circuit Champ and everything in between. This is free to read on Global Comics, so everyone watching right now, here is the link. Be sure to head over there, give them a follow, leave a comment, anything you can do to help boost the algorithm. It's 100% free, and share that link on Facebook and Twitter. My cat in the background would love you for that. John, Brendan, I read this. I am absolutely in love with Grace, with Sydney, with the world of Circuit Champ. Brendan, everything you do with hair is just so iconic, I feel. And John, we were gushing, like, your script writing is just phenomenal. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. But before we do, let's just, some short introductions. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am a fiction writer, a comics writer. I've been working in the video game industry for about 11 years. Working's a strong term with all the layoffs going on right now. I'm between projects there, but I have been doing a lot of any kind of creative work that I can get my hands on. I think right now I'm also doing video essays on comics on YouTube. I released a video about Swiss Army scientists, my favorite scientists in comics, which are just, I do capital S science, and that means I can do everything. So Batman, the Atom, things like that, just kind of the origin of that. I kind of do a little bit of everything, but I have a love, a deep affection for worlds that don't exist in reality and making more of them. So.
And then we have Brendan, of course, a big fan of the moon. Recently funded a Kickstarter too, so congratulations on that. How have you been, Brendan?
I've been biting my nails down to the beds, waiting for that campaign to finish. But yes, we did succeed in the Mark Hero Destroy the Moon campaign. So thank you everybody who put some attention on that or threw a contribution at that. This is actually the first time I've done podcast for a comic that's not Mario Hero. So it's kind of cool to be here talking about Circuit Champ, and working with John has really been a new experience for me. Obviously not the first writer that I've worked with. I've also done World Ends on Fire with DC Horn. I've done some stuff with Alice Quinn Rose and Alex Garrett Wright and Edwin DeCastro. Hey Edwin, how many times have you been on Keeping It? I've been on 5 now. Yeah, really excited to work on this, and it's a comic that's kind of a big departure for me stylistically, and get a chance to work on some really new worlds and new stuff, and some sci-fi stuff, which is very cool, and some hopeful stuff, which is very cool, because a lot of my stuff ends up being very cynical. So it's nice to kind of tweak that a little bit, and working with John has really kind of given me a new perspective on the way that we work comics, and also my first black and white comic too. So cool stuff all around. Excited to keep working on it and to share it with everybody. And I'm just going to keep rambling if you don't stop me. So I'm not the only person on the show today. I have to learn to shut up.
So John, one thing I noticed right off the rip was just the level of like breadcrumbs that you left, the world building. I really loved how right off the rip Grace is seen like repairing things for people, and it kind of gives you a sense of her capabilities in this world. Can you tell us a little bit about the character of Grace?
Sure. A lot of the inspiration for the series and the character herself is based off of shonen archetypes from a lot of manga and anime that I've been watching and consuming very rapidly over the last 4 or 5 years. I actually, when working with our editor, Krista Harrider, I was talking with him about, I wanted Grace to appear capable, but not overly so, but also someone who is very comfortable accepting help. And that is in my mind, a important distinction between an arrogant character and a self-aware character. And I wanted her to be young, but not naive, but very confident in her own skill set. And I think part of showing her fixing things, showing her creating Sydney, her robot, was an attempt at showing this is a very capable individual. I don't need to spend time talking about how long she's been fixing things, how she learned this. We're going to do it in the first 4 or 5 pages, show that she knows how to talk about this stuff. She fixes it. People rely on her, and she built her own robot. There you go. You don't need to ask any more questions. She's self-taught. She's not a genius, but she's very good at what she does, and she might still have things to learn, but that's okay because she's doing something that she enjoys. And I think reading characters that are doing things that they like is a lot more fun at times. I mean, sure, it doesn't fit the traditional monomyth of the hero of the reluctant character, but sometimes you just want somebody who like wants to do what the plot of the story is, because then you don't have to worry about them being pushed by an Obi-Wan character down the road all the time. It's just like, no, I want to fight robots because it's fun.
You know, it's so funny you made that comment, because I was literally about to say it kind of reminded me of like Anakin and pod racing.
Yeah, you know, she definitely has that sort of like, I know everything about this. It's a very fun version of a hyperfixation. You know, she's very into this thing, and obviously you have Axel, her older cousin, who I think Brendan and I toy back and forth with. Did Axel used to mech fight? And
I think we landed on yes, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think we have so many conversations about it. I have a world building doc that occasionally I have to remind myself what I wrote, you know, months ago. But Axel, her older cousin, is a former mech fighter, and so you've got Torque, her uncle, Polly, her aunt, Axel, Sparky, Wheeler, and Chip, her cousins, who are all this big family unit who support her because that's what family does. And we wanted to have a very like Pokemon meets Real Steel vibe with this comic, and I think Brendan nails it with the solar punk aesthetic, but also sort of very grounded technical visuals that are a little Studio Ghibli, but not too much, but also very full of a lived-in world, and that I think lends to a lot of this being just so fun to look at, which I love looking at the pages, and I wrote the comic. I love looking at it and being like, oh, that's cool. Okay, now I got to think about what that is because that's fun. I want to talk about that. So it's just it's a great joy working with Brendan.
The one, you know, like the one weird thing that we're talking about the solar punk world is, as you know, you think about mechs and mechanical stuff, and you think about grease and dirt and stuff that really doesn't exist in the same way in this world as it does maybe in a conventional mech fighter. And you know, everything's electrical powered, everything's solar powered. But I was talking to John about this, and I said, but I still want it to be dirty. So like, how do we accomplish that? And John said, well, they're growing plants everywhere. The pollen has just got to be insane. So there's still, you know, dust clouds that blow across the plains, and there's dirt and there's soil everywhere.
Oh, that'd be horrible. Like allergies out the wazoo. Oh,
it'd be my nightmare. Yeah, I would die.
I'm actually, unknown fact, I think first time revealed on the show, I'm allergic to cats. I've had these guys for years, and I found out you could just randomly get allergic to shit you love, and I'm like, why?
That's unfortunate.
Yep.
I can't just get rid of these guys. My kids love them.
No. I remember I went to the allergist when I was a kid, and the allergist was like, well, you've got a dog, but if we find you're allergic to dogs, you might have to get rid of the dog. And I was like 12 years old, and I was like, go straight to hell.
Yeah, we're gonna put you down.
Yeah,
you're a quack.
So Brendan, this is your first time doing black and white. Like, how did that feel for you? That's a big jump from what you traditionally do.
It's not my first time doing black and white. It is my first time doing black and white since I started putting things in the public eye. I used to do black and white exclusively, like 10 years ago, when I was first starting to figure this stuff out. Before I was like, I can't do coloring, I'm gonna do black and white. But yeah, no, it's a different vibe. I actually really, it was something I had stopped doing entirely because I'm like, well, I'm the color guy now. I gotta color everything. But we wanted to kind of ape, like a manga, and we do it at manga size. If and when it's ever printed, it's going to be in like a tankobon volume of that kind of.
Oh, that's really cool
dimension. So we have a couple of feature color pages, but for the most part, it's going to be a black and white comic. And I just said, okay, we're gonna have to take that and we're gonna make it look as good as we can with the rendering and everything that we can do with that. And I really enjoyed the process to a point where now I'm working on another project where I'm going to write and draw it myself, and I'm going to do it in black and white for the first time there. So, I'll tell more about that when I have more real things to say about it. But it's been eye-opening for me to be like, hey, we can actually really do some cool stuff in black and white. You can still bring across the shading and the light without color. And it helped me learn kind of a new skill set. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do it. And it's faster to make too.
you have like seeing your works across like different writers and different, I guess, like colors and black and white. The one thing that really sticks out to me is like facial expressions. You like have this way of doing facial expressions, like, and I have to find the one where they're just like in awe, and it's just like a little open mouth, and it's like such a perfect. I love it. And then there was another one in particular, the regulator check. It's like a speech bubble with just his face and his mustache, and it was like so awesome. And I just love like the little like touches everywhere that you have.
That's two things. One is the shock faces from that's just lifted straight out of Gundam, or aka Battle Angel Alita. The octopus mouth, just the
yes, I love it.
And then the announcer is just I sometimes when you don't know like how to design a character, you just kind of think of what they represent, and then you pick like a real world analog for that and kind of copy that over. So the announcer is just Howard Finkel from old school WWE.
Everybody loves to think.
Yeah, everybody loves to think. And it's like I couldn't figure out, because I'm like we talked about when John originally pitched this to me, he said he wanted to do a shonen Real Steel, and I had never seen Real Steel, so I was like, okay, sure, robots fighting, whatever. And I eventually had to watch some of Real Steel to get a vibe for the the arena and everything, and to kind of set up what we wanted to do there. The announcer there is like very Old West cowboy showman kind of thing, with the big 10-gallon hat and the sparkly jacket and everything. I'm like, I didn't really want to do that. So I'm like, what would be my version of this character? And it's the Fink. So that's
the mustache is like perfect too.
Oh yeah, it's great.
John, this world is based upon mech combat. Can you tell us like what that looks like? Is this like where the whole world is into this event, or how does that work?
I had to set some ground rules down for myself, which is something I like doing for any project that I work on, just so that I don't, what I refer to as get feature creep, which is a video game terminology thing for development, where you don't just be like, and then the characters can fly, and also they can build everything, and also and it's like, you gotta stop at some point. You gotta like rein it in. And I think for me it was, there is no war. All right, this isn't Gundam. There's no, yes, these are all robots we used in the war. This is very much we built a lot of mech robots to probably help with a lot of the construction, the agriculture, the infrastructure for this world. And now we're done with it. What do we do with these giant robots we built? Well, we can probably punch stuff with them. And they started to get into that. And then, once you get into that, you get I don't want to have one that punches. I want one that kicks, or I want one that's faster, and I want one that jumps, or we've described my favorite monster mech later that we're probably going to get to at some point. Hopefully, Leviathan just has a giant crab arm.
Yeah,
I love
that. And we're a ways off from Leviathan,
absolutely.
But yeah, that's
but like
I'm excited for that one.
yeah, Leviathan's gonna be great. We have, and I always think of things in terms of wrestlers too, because I think it's easy to do archetypes that way. Like you've got your, Sydney is very much a Daniel Bryan mech. She is very small, but she's fast, and technically she's very good because she's built well. And so, okay, so that's, let's go with this. Or you've got Princess, which is Wynn's mech, which we were like, let's do something different. Let's make it faster, and it does kicks. So Princess's arms are really tiny, like a T-Rex. You've got all these kind of different ideas of this world being technically proficient in a lot of different advances because it's solar punk, so it is kind of futuristic, but at the same time I wanted it to be recognizable to people who read this, to be like, oh yeah, I understand what that is. Like, yeah, we've got different names for things, but like, oh, did you get that hauler? That's just a flatbed truck. They call sleds cars are just sleds, like we're not trying to reinvent the wheel so much as just like, what if we just called things different things, and pretended like everyone knew what that meant. And I think a lot of the mech designs have been really fun to see evolve over time. Looking at, Brennan and I talking about like, okay, we first tournament, because this is going to be basically a tournament arc for the almost entirety of the series. Hooray! If you're a fan of tournament arcs, you're going to be eaten well. But a lot of it was like, we need someone she could beat, someone who's going to give a challenge, someone she's probably not going to fight, and then Vegeta.
Oh, I already know. I already got a good idea of all. So one thing I really love too, with the world building and everything, we have, obviously the different levels of expertise. You have, Grace, who's just stepping into it. She knows a crap load about it, but she doesn't know, like, she hasn't been in a fight. She hasn't actually been in a tournament. So she's nervous a little. Then we have the one dude who's like, sponsored. I really love the sponsorships in this too. It kind of gave me like a Borderlands vibe a little bit.
Yeah. Jacques is great.
Yeah. It's, there was a sign and they're drinking it. What is Shock in this world? Is it like a Nuka-Cola like corporation, or?
It was. I'm dying at the sponsorship stuff, because John just said like he's got sponsors, and I'm like, what do you want it to be? And he's like, I don't know, just make it something obnoxious. So I came up with this. I immediately thought of I remember when Penny Arcade did comics about the old, I think it was like Gamer Fuel when that first came out. G Fuel, yeah. And so I'm like, I want to play with something like that. And it's a shonen setup, so we know dreams are a thing. So I made this thing called Dreams with like 6 Z's, and the logo's got all like the cascading Z's in like a thunderbolt shape. And I made this logo and I sent it to John. He's like, I don't even know what this is. Is it an energy drink? Is it a sleep aid? Who knows? It's perfect. And so he slapped it on the jacket. He's got a can of it that he holds like he's a celebrity. He holds it like it's pointed in the back.
Labels out, boys.
Fingers, labels out. He's just the worst person in the world.
I think I described him. You did a good job writing him too, because I wanted to punch a very punchable face.
I think I described him to Brennan. I was like, this is Vegeta if he was a Twitch streamer, E-boy.
That's me.
Yeah. And I was just like, this is just the meanest, looking.
Come on, John.
Yeah, and
come on, John.
No, I mean, and it's the thing is like, I have friends who are streamers. I used to stream too. It's just the obnoxious guy who's always like, don't remember my gamer subs code is whatever, John 420 all the time, and that's all they talk about. And the only thing that they always do is like they're always showing their stuff, and they're like, look, sponsors are great, but at a certain point, oh man, like this guy really cares. And that was kind of the thing that I wanted to drive home, is there's a difference between sportsmanship and being a sellout. And Grace has sportsmanship. She's there to have fun. She's there to compete. She wants to win, but not at the expense of being a cruel person. She meets Javi and Win and these other characters who are equally excited to be there, but they've kind of got some attitude, and they're a little bit, full. Like Javi's great. I love Javi because he's just like, hey, I'm happy to be here. Let's have some fun. Good fight later. Win is, I'm gonna win. That's the whole point of my name. But also, I think I described her as like Lin Beifong from Avatar: Legend of Korra. She's just like a gravel and spit older woman, but she's like not really that bad.
That was weird. Didn't they take her character and like de-age her?
Yeah, a little bit. It was, I don't know what happened there. Let women be older. TV shows. Come on, we can do it. We can do it. We have Master Roshi. Let's just have older women.
We can try real hard. Hey, Demeter in Hades too, and Hades went to that. I think that's a great kind of like older representation. Really, really badass character. And it's like, you can just do that. You can do whatever you want. No one can stop you from making these things. So
speaking of making these things, Brendan, I am curious. What was some of the inspirations for the mech designs? Like I
wanted them all to be different. Was like the first thing. Because I feel like you have a real trap that you can fall into where things start to look very much the same. And especially when you're kind of like coming up with the way the technology works. And John and I spent a long time figuring out like how all the technology works and basic rudiments and whatnot. And it was just like, we want them all to kind of express personality of the pilot and to be a little bit different. And so Grace kind of obviously has the I don't know, not even the most vanilla one. I think Javi probably has the most vanilla one, honestly.
Yeah.
But because Grace has got like the foot blades instead of the big stomping feet. And you know, Fakan looks like Goro, because I think that Goro is like one of the most intimidating presences in the history of media, and that's really what we wanted to bring across there. And my personal favorite of kind of the thing that's just really a background element is Geiger, Ernie's mech. Ernie, who gets like one mention and half a line in the first issue, and it's being told that he's not going to fight in the first round, and he just goes, "Aw." But his mech is just a very plain body, and it's got one arm that's a huge mallet, and there's like a radioactive symbol painted on it, and it's like that's who that character is. He doesn't really have a whole lot to do, but he's got a big hammer.
And I remember writing it too, and I was like, oh man, he's gonna make this really cool thing, and I'm totally gonna just sideline this guy off screen, and that's gonna suck.
But that's what it is, you know. The design process is like you're making cool stuff, and you can't put all of it center stage in front of the camera all the time. A lot of it's background elements, but the cooler your background elements are, the cooler your story is. So
this world is so lived in too. Like each panel, it just felt so detailed and immersive. And I don't know, you know, Brendan, it felt like your paneling was a little bit different in this too. Or maybe I'm wrong on that. It could be maybe just the black and white, but just like the way you did your panels felt a little bit different.
A lot of that's as a result of John's script. And, you know, in working with John is very different than working with other writers that I've worked with. And it's an experience I appreciate, because John is very meticulous. And he writes out all like where he wants the panels to go and how many panels he wants on the page and the dialogue. We did the final draft of this. I sent it off to him, and his first comment was, "I see that you changed 2 words on page 3 there." And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll fix it right away. but you know, he's very meticulous, and he's very attentive to the way that he wants things presented. And so you know, it's a collaboration, and there's give and take, but it's definitely had an influence on the way that I've kind of laid out the comic. And you know, I've learned a lot doing it, and packing a lot into the pages. You know, manga tends to move very quickly, but not a lot happens. So when we get to like a first issue like this, where we're trying to make a big first impression and get the hooks in you and show you what's going on in the world, we kind of have to split the difference between a manga pace, which is, you know, you'll do 16 pages for half a conversation to happen, or for one punch to get thrown. And we had to pack in, you know, establishment, who the characters are, get them to the place they need to be, introduce everybody, and then at the very end of it, of course, is the fight starts. But still, you know, we needed to move at a good clip, so it was a creative process of how to get that all onto the page and still make it look good. But I think we did a great job. So
no, I think you guys killed it.
And it's funny that you mentioned too that the script thing, and I think it feeds into the concept of what you were saying, is like, we only have so many pages to do this. And I think, you know, when you're working with a collaborator for the first time, you do get a little meticulous, because you're like, all right, this is what it's like if we do everything by the book the first time. Are we cool with that? Great. Okay, let's do a way that I work is, okay, buy the script. Second story is, okay, I'm not going to be as hands-on the second time to see kind of how you play around. Perfect. Great. Okay. And then it becomes like with Veritas, I think I wrote in issue 7 one time to Davis, my artist there. I was like, I don't care how they get there. I want 3 things broken. One of them to be one of those drink fridges, and it's a fight in a bodega. I leave it to you. And he wrote a cool fight, and I was like, that's great. I don't need to choreograph the entire fight scene. I was like, these are the things I want to see happen. I want this guy to get hit in the head by a pipe. The rest of it is up to you. I trust you. And that just kind of comes over time. And this is our first time working together. And again, I feel so bad when I did that, because I was like, oh God, like I'm being such an asshole. But it was like 2 words. And in my mind, I was like, oh God, did I send him the wrong script? Which my head, I was like, oh, I spent time with the editor fixing this and all that. And oh God, did I not send him the updated script? And I think that was more what it was than like, how dare you change my video?
Oh yeah.
Like, did I send him the wrong thing?
That's probably like, you know, this is like the number one thing that I look for when I'm working with collaborators, kind of mutual respect. of the working relationship. And I don't work with people who don't treat me well. It's not worth the waste of life. Because if somebody, if in your first going with somebody, if they don't treat you with respect, and it's like that's never going to improve. That's always going to be the way it is.
That's their standard. Yeah.
I had somebody pitch me a job once, and they wanted me to do colors for them. And in the first email, because they asked me what my rates were, and I sent them back what my rates were, and they said, okay, your rate's fine. And then immediately launched into a tirade about how they were firing their last colorist because they were lazy and they were going to be really hard on me, and I needed to be able to take stiff criticism or I wouldn't be able to make it in this business. And I was like, you know what? Thank you for your time, but I don't think so.
Adios.
Doesn't sound like a good fit.
Can I double my rate?
Yeah, right. But again, and even when we have situations like this where, John will give me crits, and he's always comes in with like, hey, this is what's going on, and this is what I'd like to see changed, and can we do this? What do we need to work out for this and that? And it's always respectful, and it's always super professional. And it's just a joy to. This is what I always say, because so many people in comics, so many artists have such bad experiences working with people, and it's like, you don't have to exist that way. There are good collaborations out there. There are good people to work with. We should all strive to be a little better and to improve the industry just a little bit in the way we behave. So I don't know.
So John, speaking of that, with the world of Circuit Champ, where are we going to see it go in the future? I mean, I know you guys are still in the works, but what can we expect from, maybe issue 2, issue 3, and so forth?
I got to listen close because I haven't read the second issue yet. So do tell.
I have an overall vision for the series that it does have a definite end. Because I think at a certain point, some things go too long. I say, looking at Naruto and One Piece. Sometimes you gotta just end it, and you gotta be cool with that, because sometimes you lose quality if you go for too long. But I think that the series is gonna. I have 3 major capstones for Grace's journey that I want to hit as she progresses, and for even just the next story, I think it's gonna deal with the aftermath of her first fight and how different it really was compared to what her imagination had built it up to be. It's the old military adage is no plan survives first contact with the enemy. She has been training against a static, non-reactive dummy for however long she's been fighting. And the first fight she has is with a guy who arguably is out of her league. And that is not something she's ever really considered. And I think that is going to be a thing that will also humanize her a lot, because so often you get shown in protagonists who are like, well, I'm just going to keep going, and it's like nothing ever phases them. And I don't really want to have someone who is my partner and I talk about this a lot of the time with manga and anime, is characters who are pants, or any reader can just kind of put them on, and that's me. And
like Denji from Chainsaw Man. Ash from Pokemon is just kind of pants. Like, you don't really, other than I want to be the very best that no one ever was. I have a mom. We don't talk about my dad, and I love Pikachu. That's hitting pretty hard to me too. Damn. Damn.
But
proving the point, Cody.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on this podcast so I could roast you in real time. But it's kind of a thing of like, I want these characters to be real people, and for them to be real people, they have to have personality. They have to have likes and dislikes. I think part of like when I was creating Grace to begin with, I was writing my character Bible for her. My girlfriend was like, "What's her favorite food?" I was like, "Grilled cheese." Grilled cheese is her favorite food. So now we've got that. I think one of the big contributions that I'm excited to bring into issue 2 from Brennan is the little purple pink platypus creature that you see floating next to Grace as her sidekick. I can't remember if we've decided on a name, but in my head I keep calling them Beansy.
That's for me. I don't remember.
Are they gonna have toe beans?
They better. Little platypus toe beans, floating platypus toe
Do
beans.
platypuses have toe? Those are weird creatures
they have
too.
webbed feet.
Abominations, honestly.
Yeah, that's why they're the best.
I won't take platypus slander in this house.
I'm roasting you. You're making him upset because of the platypus stuff. Like, this is only going to go downhill.
From now on, I only come back on this show to stick it to Edwin. That's
easy. We don't keep it geekly in these parts anymore.
He said stuff about platypi. I don't go back on the podcast now. But yeah, no, I think the direction I want to go is largely forward, which is such a silly thing to say, but Grace is going to be leaving. She's going to be moving forward. She's going to be, at a certain point, you've fought everyone around town. You have to go elsewhere. And for her to improve, she has to go to different ponds for herself to grow and to get better. And so, we'll likely be staying in Triple Rock for a while. For her to progress and kind of use it as a base of operations. Like, okay, we're going to go to the next county over, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to go 2 counties over, and then we're going to, there's a tournament 3 weeks away. I guess we'll have to go travel for that, kind of a thing. I don't want it to immediately be like, all right, niece, go out into the world by yourself with your mech robot. Bye. Kind of, again, sort of an Ash Ketchum thing.
Hey, can we be honest though? Professor Oak definitely was onto something when he's like, Ash, go complete this Pokedex, and I'm gonna be alone here with your ma. Like,
yeah,
here's my life's work. I've done nothing. You go do it.
I've made a BlackBerry that talks to you, but I haven't put anything in it. Can you just go out and Noah's Ark that later?
It's like Bill Nye telling you to like research the environment. Like, come on, Bill.
Yeah, can you make my television show for me? Please. But yeah, I didn't want to immediately throw her to the wolves without having a solid foundation of, frankly, a good family base, which I think is really important to me when I write comics. Is I don't like the traditional trope of like orphan goes out into the world with found family. Yes, we don't know much about Grace's parents at this point, but we do know that she has Torque, Polly, and the rest of the family, and they are a family. She has support. She has grown up with 2 loving parents, for lack of a better term, because they are her parents, effectively, and 4 brothers. So that is, something I wanted to drive home, is that this is a different kind of story where you're not going to get that traditional, like, I don't know who my father is or my mother, torture drama forever. I wanted her to be a complete person who had been raised with love and support. Not that you can't have that with a single parent home or what have you. It's more or less just, it's a trope that you get too often. And I kind of wanted to break that. And to do that, I needed to write her at home for quite some time before we decided to do where are her parents? What is that? Why does she live with Torque and Polly? What is that about? I have a coach for her set up and ready to go, because you need a Rocky and Mickey relationship. And that's always fun because I'm a sucker for boxing movies, and I'm ready for I'm excited for the coach to be there, because that is going to be a different type of person who might show the more grown-up aspect of this. It's like, yes, you have been competing in pickup games with other children for the last 3 months. The actual league, the NBA, is really intense, and kind of someone who can show her that, like, you're aiming very high, and that's okay, but you are not prepared for how intense this can get.
So we have about 5 minutes left before I have to prepare for how intense my workday is about to get. So with that being said, I think that was a good transition. We do need to begin wrapping up. So Brendan, you've been on the show 5-time Keeping the Geekly World Champion. You know the drill. John, you know the drill too. We ask for a piece of advice and then what you're consuming outside of creating. So for anyone looking to just dive into writing something they've always been wanting to do, exploring that world and making sure they establish it correctly, what would be your biggest piece of advice? As you both have series that have just expansive world building, what would be the single biggest piece of advice you could offer? And we'll start with let's start with Brendan first, since John was the last one talking.
For writing, I don't know, just do it.
Just do it.
I'm a bad writer. Yeah, no, it's I always start with an outline, and it's just like figure out what you want your story to be about, figure out where you want it to start, where you want it to end, and then kind of start filling in the middle bits. And don't get too attached to anything at any given point, because sometimes stuff has to change. So I guess that'd be my getting started advice, and John's going to give a way better spiel than me, so I'll just let him go.
Oh no, it's all relative. I think. I think for me, it is giving yourself boundaries. I know rule of cool is fun. Everybody likes to do, but what if storytelling and world building and throwing everything in because it's your world and you can do whatever you want. Just because everything can go in a soup doesn't mean it should. And that is a hard thing to kind of accept when making your world. Give yourself boundaries, and if you need to, break them. But if you don't have to, it's a challenge to see how creative you can get within that. I say it's akin to working in a sandbox. You can do a lot in a sandbox. You can make a lot of things in a sandbox. But if you want to go on the swing set, make sure you got a good reason to do it. Because, having a swing set and a sandbox near each other kind of means you might get kicked while you're making your castle.
I like that.
That's
classy.
That's kind of hard
That's
to do.
good.
And it's good to kind of have just that awareness of like, well, I do like magic, but what if my dragon high fantasy also had aliens? You sure? Okay, let's see how it goes. But don't.
Has there ever been a high fantasy alien comic?
I don't know.
I think you're onto something.
I challenge someone to do it happily. If it proved me wrong, I would love to read your high fantasy alien comic. This is not to say that it can't be done, but I am eager to see it done.
Krull. It's Krull. Sorry.
Is it Krull?
Yeah.
Well, that's well, we don't talk about Robert E. Howard as much as we should, and probably more than we should. Also,
we're deleting this segment of the podcast.
No, the film Krull. My favorite sci-fi movie, or one of my. I've been trying to get people to let me do Krull fan art for like.
Just do it.
I should probably just.
No one can tell you no.
Nobody can tell me.
No one can tell you no.
You are an eldritch being.
That's
no
right.
one can fathom your scary Krull desires.
So, last but not least, what are you guys, up to? What are you reading? What are you playing? What are you consuming? I seen this big post like not to call it consuming content, so I'm trying my best to word that differently on the fly. But what are you guys up to? And we'll start with John this time around.
I just finished my yearly rewatch of Venture Brothers.
Nice.
Okay.
Love that show. I think that's a great example of breadcrumbing your world building. If anyone's looking for something that's interesting way of like having your world built without like making it about building the world, that's a great show to do that with. I just recently finished reading Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, Who Killed Jimmy Olsen, the Matt Fraction maxi series. It is the most fun I've had reading a comic in a long time. I have not laughed out loud at comic panels that hard in so long. I think maybe since I first picked up Atomic Robo. It's so funny, but it's also just so well written. I loved it. I just got the Alex Toth collection of Bravo for Adventure, which was Alex Toth's fledgling creative project of Jesse Bravo, his 1930s air pilot adventurer swashbuckling thing that never took off, that is now in a collected volume. And I might be the only person in the world still playing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Brendan, what about you? What are you up to?
I made a quick little list because I wanted to be brief today, but Hades 2 early access, I'm all about that. Dungeon Meshi is what I'm watching. Chainsaw Man's what I'm reading, among other things. But those
did you read volume 15 yet?
No.
I'm gonna spoil it for you. I'm gonna spoil it for you.
Not a word. I just started a YouTube channel. 7 subscribers. Whoa,
okay.
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
It's just me drawing stuff and talking to the camera. I have my first finished series of 3 videos where I copy a Junji Ito panel and try to learn how to draw in black and white because I'm going to be doing more of that. And then I have a series that's starting next week where I'm drawing Hades 2 fan art. So check that out. Right. Give me a subscription. Tell me I'm good.
We'll be dropping that link in the description of this YouTube video so you guys can subscribe. And while we're at it, right here is the link to read Circuit Champ for free on Global Comics. Be sure to share that link wherever you can. Word of mouth is 100% free. With that being said, it is time for us to wrap up. I hope you all have a lovely, is it Friday? I think it's Friday, right?
It is, yes.
Lovely Friday,
Whatever
but
day
most
it is.
importantly, keep it geekly.